they're ripping us off. And I want to just talk about what that means. When you go into a grocery store and you're buying groceries and you're buying more than ever and paying even less.
Let's let him finish his point, and
Okay,
then
okay.
we'll rip him to shreds.
I was gonna say then we'll eviscerate him. Okay. Jagmeet Singh tried to demonstrate how in touch he is with the average Canadian by holding up a bottle of olive oil and acting how shocked he was with how expensive it was. The trouble is that he proved, just like Trudeau, he has no idea what he's talking about.
Let's take a look.
We were just shopping in the grocery store, and I just want to pull out my receipt here. We bought two things. We bought olive oil. Hold on a second. We bought olive oil and apples here at the superstore. The olive oil was over $20, $23 for this olive oil, President's Choice, $23. And then, yep. And this bag of apples, Imperfect, President's Choice, again, the brand of superstores of Loblaws, $9 for a bag of apples. Imperfect, pretty much the same price as the other non-local brand, known brand of superstore. They're ripping us off. And I want to just talk about what that means. When you go into a grocery store and you're buying groceries and you're buying more than ever and paying even less, you know, on the other side of that, there's a rich CEO that's ripping you off.
Wait a minute. He just said when you're buying more than ever and paying even less?
What?
At least get your talking points through. Okay, so
Wow.
so the problem's solved. You're buying more than ever and you're paying less. Good job, Jagmeet. You've solved world hunger? I don't know.
Like he's
this clown.
He's making a fool of himself. And I mean, that's not the only point that he's making a fool of himself on.
Well, let's let him finish his point, and then we'll rip him to shreds.
I was gonna say then we'll eviscerate him. Okay, yes. Sounds good.
And that is happening because liberals and conservatives have let these CEOs have all the power, all the wealth to rip you off, and you end up paying the price. $30, almost $40 you spend here on two items. This is what families are up against here in the Tri-Cities, but across the country. Families are hurting because they try to go in and buy basic things. You need cooking oil, want some fruits for your family. Like Benito was saying, it's so expensive to buy healthy.
Okay. So let's tackle the first thing. Apples. He's either really stupid.
Yes.
Or he is really smart.
Yeah, he's strategically picking these two items to showcase how expensive groceries are on purpose.
Because it's shocking, right?
Yeah.
He spent $35 on just two things, some apples and some olive oil. What a travesty.
But
okay.
Why are these two items as expensive as they are?
So, because we like to deal in facts and not feelings, we have a graph to show you.
So apples. Apples are grown in Canada. Many of them are, or they're imported. And the harvest season for apples is September, typically. Sometimes as early as late August, but typically September. So what happens is they pick all the apples off the trees in September, in the fall, and they coat them in wax, and then they put them into storage, into cold storage, and that's where they stay until the supply starts to run out in the summer. So if you look at the graph, for each and every single year, July and August are the peak price times for apples. And that's because they're running out of apples in storage. So when supply runs out, prices go up, or they're importing them from other countries.
And the other thing to note here, which is really, really important. So all of these lines represent a year, right? So obviously at the very bottom, 2017, you have, the cheapest apples. And all the way at the top, you have the most expensive apples. So all the way at the top was 2023. Now, I want to divert everybody's attention. to the 2023 March price and the 2022 March price. And then I want you to look at the purple March price. That's 2024, everybody. So isn't it interesting that on this graph, the price for apples in March of 2024 was cheaper by, a whole dollar per kilogram than they were last year. And they're also cheaper by about 50 cents per kilogram than they were in 2022. So the price of apples has actually, fallen as of March compared to 2022 and 2023. Now, the other thing that you need to see here is exactly what Tanya was talking about, because all of the prices take a nosedive in September. So you'll see in some years the prices go down more than others. And that's because of the amount of harvest that was actually been, able to be taken from the crops. But this is the thing. So obviously Jagmeet is going to try to buy these apples in one of the most expensive months of the year to wave around at everybody and say, oh my God, apples are so expensive. Well, yeah.
Yeah, because
you're buying them in July instead of September, October.
Another thing, I think we as Canadians don't really do a good job of eating what's in season. I think we're used to just seeing things year round in the grocery store and assuming that because it's available year round that it should be cheap year round, not realizing that these things are either coming out of cold storage like the apples or they're being imported from other countries. And so of course they're more expensive because they're not in season. I think if we learn to eat produce that's in season, we might be able to save a little bit on our grocery bills.
Now, the next thing he was talking about is olive oil. So Tanya has a Italian heritage, so she knows a little bit about olive oil.
A little bit. I know that it's run by the mob, we'll say that. They have a cartel for olive oil over there, the way that other cartels operate for illicit substances.
Yeah, the Godfather wasn't making that up.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
So that actually happens. So, we're not pointing fingers at the mafia. You can do whatever you like with your olive oil. We have no problem with that. So, all the power to you.
But there is a monopoly because of that. So the prices are already controlled as it is. But this past year, the harvest was particularly bad. So again, it all comes down to supply and demand.
Yeah, so let's go to a recent article on CNN where they actually talk about the prices of olive oil and the contributing factors to it.
A mix of various factors such as general inflation of prices, reduced olive oil production, and increasing demand have created the perfect breeding ground for fraudulent producers, according to the Europol statement. So this was taken from a CNN article about organized crime using this shortage of olive oil to create fraudulent olive oil. And there was a huge bust, and you can read the article. It's in the description, of course, but we're focusing on why the prices were high. So in 2023, Mediterranean oil production was down by 41%, Colgeretti said. An extremely wet spring meant olive oil trees flowered less, and record-setting heat in the summer shriveled the olives that did grow. That's left producers unable to meet marketplace demand.
And what have we learned about supply and demand?
When supply is low but demand is high, prices go up.
Right. Hence our housing crisis. Just saying. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's Jagmeet and his home economics course on grocery prices. And he gets an F. So let's continue.
Just reminding everyone online, if you'd like to ask a question, to use the raise hand function. I have no questions online. So this concludes our press conference.
Well, that was exhilarating.
That was embarrassing. That was embarrassing.
Oh my goodness. It just...
No questions.
One thing I do want to say is the prices for groceries in this country are outrageous, and we all know it. But I get really upset when these politicians do things like blame the CEOs instead of blaming themselves for supporting these carbon taxes, and also instead of blaming themselves for picking two of the most expensive products in the grocery store right now because of supply and demand issues. This has nothing to do with the prices that the grocery store sets. These have to do with the prices that the suppliers are setting for the grocery stores.
Well, and here's the thing. So when Pierre talks about the carbon tax and the price on food, when that comes off, you're not going to see food prices come down by like 50% or anything crazy, but you're going to see them come down. And even if it's, let's say, $10 or $20 off your grocery bill, that's $10 or $20 that's in your pocket. So this is what we're talking about. So at least Pierre and the Conservatives are working with something tangible, and they're working with something that's rooted in fact. Jagmeet is just, he's gaslighting and clowning everybody. And the unfortunate part is there's actually a significant part of the population that believes that the reason why food is so expensive is because of the greedy CEOs.
Well, yeah, look, in May, there was a Loblaws boycott. Now, I don't really favor Loblaws. Like, I don't care. I don't have a horse in that race. But I find it very suspicious the way that Jagmeet and the NDP are constantly picking on Loblaws. And I really do wonder if that has something to do with his brother's lobby firm lobbying for competitor Metro.
Yeah, you don't hear Jagmeet calling for a boycott against Metro, do you? I've heard him like once or twice say Metro, but the majority of the time it's Galen Weston and Loblaws.
Yeah, it's always Loblaws.
And that's Metro's major competitor. So I think that's, something's there, folks. And I know a lot of people have talked about that, but this is the thing about this. And the funniest part about that whole press conference was what happened at the end. Nobody wanted to ask him any questions. It was such a dumpster fire. They're just like, nah, I'm good. And they're tired of his stupid answers. Oh, well, we're going to be fighting. Okay, you need some new material, Jagmeet, because you've been using the same tired material for the last year and a half.
Well, and grocery stores, like, their profit margins are razor thin. They're only between 4 and 6%. Where they make most of their money is on pharmaceuticals and cosmetics. We've talked about this in the past. I'll stick a link to the video we did in the description, but you'll see one of the older versions of the puppets. So just be warned. But, we've done the numbers. We've crunched the numbers, and it's not from groceries.
Yeah, I think there was something, if memory serves, like 80% of their profits came from the cosmetics and the drugs. And we actually show, one of the reasons for it is because there was all these, scare buys on cough medicine, on Gravol, on any cold medication at all, especially on the kids' side. It was all gone. So guess what? Prices were going up for that because demand was high, supply was low. It was artificially a shortage because everybody was hoarding
panic
this
buying.
medication.
Yeah. We couldn't get Tylenol for our little boy last winter.
And
like, my parents had to go to the States and get it for us.
Yeah, and if medication is constantly being bought, well, that's a lot of sales for the corporation, and there's a good profit margin on that compared to the food. So, duh. Like, what do you expect? What, you don't think that these companies are going to try and push their high profit margin items? If they weren't doing that, I'm pretty sure they would have a bunch of shareholders at their door saying,
WTF.
Where's the funds?